Speaking of quarterbacks, how is working with Matt Leinart?
He's the best, man. So Matt and I have an interesting way we've come together later in life. Obviously, 2003 Heisman champion, like, he's in LA 2003, 2004. I had just started Entourage 2003, 2004. I'm a little bit older than him. And I wasn't a big run around town guy, but I would always say, oh, the USC guys are here. That, they were like the Beatles in a way. They were the most famous college football team, maybe of all time. If you really look back at that team with Reggie Bush and created the tush push too, I blame him for all that every day. I say we have to deal with this stuff with the Eagles because of you and Reggie against Notre Dame. Horrible. And then we reconnect all these years later. He's got three now young kids. He just had another baby. He has an older son too, Cole, who's going off to SMU to play quarterback, which is cool.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make friends later in life, Brandon. It just is. You have family. So through this show, I'm inherently making a great new friend. And also everyone, it's easy to get guests. It's like, oh, you want to talk to me? Some people are like, yeah, maybe. I don't know if they know Entourage or Power, but then it's like, oh, Leinart's oh, I know Leinart. Sure. He's a good guest getter. He makes it easy to get guests.
Yeah. So how did you guys get put together if you didn't really you weren't friends prior?
Yeah. So, I started a podcast back in 2012 with my wife that ran for a very long time. We only stopped it because we started having kids and it just got too crazy. So I've always loved the space. I was in the space since 2012, and it really was a love of sports talk radio too, and WFAN and all that stuff. And then Sinclair reached out to me because they were launching this podcast network and really wanted, and they have a great college football show, Triple Option, with Urban Meyer and Mark Ingram and Rob Stone. And we started talking about potential co-hosts, and a lot of names got thrown around. This is really like the cool part of social media. Leinart for a long time was never on social media, and then he gets Big Noon, the Fox show, right? Mm-hmm. So, and he wants to basically have a social media presence and show the other side of him. He had just started popping up all these years later on all my Instagram feeds. Like I said, I didn't even know we had young kids, Manhattan Beach dad. I'm like, what is Leinart up to? And then the next day in the meeting, Sinclair is like, what about Matt Leinart? I'm like, I was just watching some of his TikTok stuff. He's absolutely hilarious. I'm like, that's really interesting. Let's have a podcast blind date, which we did. And it was from that moment on, we had a 2-hour conversation. It was on from that moment.